So what's the difference between what you guys do and, say, a medium?
Mhm.
Like, do you believe in mediums, by the way?
Yes and no. I believe there are a lot that kind of put on a show,
Mm-hmm.
but I do believe in legitimate ones. I've encountered different psychics and mediums that have actually impressed me with things that I'm like, okay, you're legit.
Have you ever brought one with you on a adventure to
Mhm.
see if they can communicate
Yeah,
with?
yeah, we do. We bring them out from time to time just to kind of see what they pick up on. We've done stuff where we've even blindfolded them and they don't even know. Like we literally fly them in, we grab them at the hotel, we bring them in, and then just let them loose. And they've come up with impressive things.
Wow.
Actually, in the new season, we do an episode at the Winchester Mystery House. And it's the 100th anniversary of Houdini being there. And he was big into doing seances there.
Mm-hmm.
So we do a seance on the 100th anniversary of him being there. And we bring in the only blood relative of Houdini, and we have a psychic and a warlock with us.
What's a
And,
warlock?
basically a male witch.
Okay.
And then I don't know if it was just that energy or whatever, but what we call it there, we documented actual visual evidence through cameras and taking actual Polaroids, which we try to do Polaroids a lot because that's something we can actually, you take the picture, you have it right there, you could show the camera.
Right.
Like there's no time to manipulate, there's no time to do anything. Like you see it happening in real time. We capture some amazing photographic evidence in that one.
Right. I guess like devil's advocate is how come you guys are capturing all this stuff with camera and there are people that are dying to interact with their loved ones or find a missing kid or a dog, I don't know. But, and they are not having success.
Right.
How would you explain that?
I think part of it is it's like fishing. Sometimes we'll be out there, sometimes we film for hours and hours and hours. And the thing is, when you see the show, it's, we're out there for hours. It's edited down. The investigation's only like minus commercials, like 20 some odd minutes.
22, yeah.
So it's kind of like the highlights of, literally an entire night of being out there.
Right. So you're there a while.
Right.
It's not just you walk in and walk out.
And I think too, what's different about our show is that we don't stop. We literally film every other week. Like since I joined the show 15 years ago, we've filmed every other week.
Wow.
We get an occasional week off for Christmas, things like that. We'll get an extra week off here and there. But if you know anything about the TV world, most shows you shoot a season in a month or two, then you're down for a few months, and then you pick back up for the new season. But we just shoot nonstop. So we're kind of always in it. We're always in it. We bring things home with us. Like it's not just like we're clocking in for work. We do it and then we go home and it's all, happy. Like
speaking of clocking in and clocking out, has this ever affected a relationship?
100%.
In what way?
I've gotten divorced.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why?
So my wife at the time, she was our behind the scenes photographer. So she would travel around with us and do promotional shoots for us and kind of just behind the scenes. During the first half of the show, she would do those. And we were filming at a place called Goatman's Bridge outside of Dallas, Texas. And we were just filming our interviews. She's just behind the scenes snapping photos. And all of a sudden we see her being affected, like just getting very negative, getting aggressive. And then we stop and we check on her. And she's just saying she doesn't feel like she's herself. She's just getting these thoughts to hurt us. Just really affected in a negative way.
And that's not her personality.
It's definitely not. She's super chill, relaxed, almost like hippie, easygoing like. So we could tell she was being affected by something, some kind of energy that was there.
Right.
So she wanted to face it. So when we did the investigation, she went out into the woods by herself. We monitored from a control station and something hit her in the head. And she had crazy experience out there, and I give her all the credit in the world, like the guts it takes to go out and face that. But after that, we told her, we're like, she like kind of, I don't want to speak for her directly, but like she kind of had a breakdown. Like she kind of like started feeling things were following her home and like seeing things more often, and she kind of broke down. And fortunately, that led to just more negativity, drinking, things like that, and it just deteriorated more and more over time. And then eventually we got to a point where it was like, obviously this isn't going to work anymore.
I'm sorry to hear that.
That's okay.
Do you think that, spirits or all these things, it's energy? Because you're talking about something, affecting her. is there a possibility that it's not a spirit, but it's just certain energies? And I don't know anything about the science, but I do know that people do believe in energies, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's a dead person standing over you.
Right, and I agree completely. And I think that's one thing, doing this for so long and experience what I have, I'm never the one to be like, this is what it is. I know, like, I'm still always learning, and I love that. I love that we can keep evolving, keep theorizing, kind of putting the pieces together.
Right.
And I do tend to believe in energy. I personally, I'm not a religious person. I have a spirituality to me, but I'm not necessarily a religious person. But I do believe in energy, and there's good energy and negative energy, whether that's demons, angels, bad people, good people, whatever you kind of want to label it and talk to it. I do believe there's good and negative energy. And I've seen it in both ways. I've encountered things that's beautiful, positive energy. We've encountered people's loved ones before, and then we've encountered things that are just straight evil, and you could just feel that. And there's a whole thing. There was a series of water experiments by this Japanese scientist that took water samples. He would go up to the beautiful mountain and take this beautiful spring water, and he would freeze it and then look at it under a microscope. When you look at it under the microscope, it formed these beautiful symmetrical crystals. Then he would take water from like the gutter in the city, freeze that, look at that under a microscope, and it was disfigured, malformed, non-symmetrical things. So then he took the beautiful water and projected hate to it. He literally, sounds crazy, but he projected hate. He would tell the water, I hate you, I'm going to kill you, blah, 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 like just projecting negative energy to it. And he froze that water, which was beautiful. Now that water's disfigured and non-symmetrical. And then he did the opposite. He took the water that was ugly from this sewer, projected love to it, said, I love you, you're beautiful, things like that. And now when he refroze that water was now beautiful symmetrical crystals. And he repeated this over and over again, and he basically proved that positive and negative energy actually affects, at least water on a molecular level. And if you think our bodies are 70, 80% of water, what's that doing to us? And then there's a whole thing called the stone tape theory, which is basically organic surfaces can hold a memory, which based on that experiment, there's water in wood, there's water in stone, things like that. So you go to a place that, a family was massacred or something that's just a brutal energy, even if the house is renovated and it's beautiful now, that energy is still in there. It's like almost like stained in the walls and the floor. And you can come in and under the right circumstances and right variables and even mindset and devices, you can pick up on that energy.
Right. Fascinating. How much of it is about location, like you're talking about where something's in the bones of the house or the area versus, a spirit or an energy, let's say, following you? I mean, you've been doing this for, decades now, and you would think maybe somebody got pissed off at you and might be flying around the room wherever you are.
Yeah, I mean, we've thought that. We've gone to places. There was a case where we went to, it was like I think like a VFW or one of those like American Legion, I think it was, in LA. And it was like, oh, our friend is haunting us. Can you, like it was more of a happier type thing. And at that time, Zach and I were doing a documentary called Demon House on this house in Gary, Indiana, that was like full of demons and everybody that went in the house had accidents, all kinds of things. And during this time, we worked on it for a few years, but we were working on that during this time. But we're doing this investigation that's these people's house, these people's, friend is supposedly haunting it. We get in there and it was evil. And then that made me be like, oh, shit, like maybe it is us. Like, we're sorry. Hopefully it doesn't stick there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there are things that do follow us around. Sometimes we encounter familiar energies that you're kind of like, whoa, this feels like something we've encountered before.
Right.
I've encountered spirit. There's a phenomenon with Ouija boards.
I was going to ask you about Ouija.
Yeah, with a thing called the Zozo demon, which is, I've encountered this numerous times throughout my life, even before the show. I encountered it, not realizing what it was.
Explain it. What do you mean?
So when I was a teenager, we were playing the Ouija board, and we wanted to go all out. So we were lighting candles, incense, water dish, dagger.
And just explain for people listening that are too old or young to know what a Ouija board is. I used to play with it all the time. But
yeah, it's basically a divination tool. It's the alphabet, yes, no, goodbye. And you use a planchette, and you hold it, and you basically ask questions, and then the planchette moves
Right.
and it spells out the answers.
Right.
And then you hope your friends aren't moving it, and
Right.
you get freaked out, and it's a good time.
Right. Usually,
Yeah.
I remember we would kind of move it to make it seem like something happened after
Right.
nothing was happening because we
Exactly.
wanted to
Right.
make it a thing. But go
Yeah.
ahead.
So this one night we were like, we want to go all out and we want to experience something. We want to get creeped out. So we think of everything ritualistic we can. Like I said, candles, water dish, daggers, incense, all that.
Oh, okay. So there are mediums that you bring into something to actually
Right.
call.
And that's the thing, we didn't,
spirits in.
at this time, we didn't know what we were doing. Like, we're just dumb kids that were like, that's just anything we could think of that we've seen in movies that feels ritualistic.
Sure.
Let's put it in here. And we're playing, and we're talking to, supposedly it's a little boy spirit, and it keeps saying its name is Zozo, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense, like, but whatever. And I noticed the incense smoke's blowing down to the dagger. So I'm like, that's weird. So I pick up the dagger, I move it, the incense changed, the smoke goes to the dagger again. And I was like, hey guys, check this out. Every time I move the dagger, the incense smoke would blow to the dagger. So then I asked through the Ouija board, I said, are you attracted to the dagger? It said yes. I was like, okay. And then I asked the stupidest question I've ever asked. I said, could you come through the dagger into us? And it said yes. So we all stopped for a minute. We're like, all right, like, what are we going to do?
Waiting,
You know,
yeah.
like, what are we, like, all right, this is what we wanted, though. You know, we wanted to get creeped out. We wanted to experience this. So myself and my one buddy were like, all right, we'll both hold it. The dagger's in a sheath, so you can hold the blade safely.
Okay.
We lay on our backs and we both hold it, and we say, okay, you can come through into us. And I just got overwhelmed sadness, like through my head to my toes. Like, it was the weirdest feeling. My buddy jumps up, knees on my shoulders, like I'm on my back, pinned down, and he's trying to pull the dagger out of the sheath. He breaks it open and he lunges it towards my throat, and I'm holding him like this, shaking with every bit of strength I have. And he's got gravity, everything, and the blade's past my chin, and he's just trying to shove it into my throat. And this goes on probably a good 15 seconds or so, and then he just full goes limp, full tears, crying, had no idea what was going on. And then we're all like, all right, we're good, we're done. Like, that's enough, you know, and we stopped. And I was a teenager. So fast forward, we're doing the show, and we're in Oklahoma, and there's a case of this guy in a home that feels like this demon came through and has been torturing him and his family. And he was like, it's called Zozo. And I was like, that sounds kind of familiar, but I didn't piece it together right away. And then during the episode, myself and the guy, who knows nothing about me at this point in my career, I never told this story publicly or anything. He knows nothing about me. So I'm like, all right, I'll do the Ouija board with him. So it's him and I, and it starts moving, and it says its name is Zozo. And I'm like, oh, it's like, have we met before?
Right,
and
I
it's
know
like,
this
yes.
name.
You know, and I was like, what did you do to me? And it said, or what did you try to do? And it said, kill. And I said, how? And it spelled out stab. And like, this guy knows nothing of me. I know I wasn't moving it. So I was like that still kind of gives me the creeps and blows my mind that like over that time, it's, you know, it still carries on, you know what I mean?